In your editing process is where your film actually comes to life. The story is not just told through the shots, but also how you put them together. Hi guys, my name is Maya, and in this video from Hubhub, I'm going to show you 9 ways of cutting in Premiere Pro. Let's get started. Let's start with number 1, a standard cut. A standard cut is pretty self-explanatory. Let's have a look at what we got. It is basically just a cut from one clip to another. The way I have it now in my timeline, I have one clip on top of the other. This is easy so you can see where you want to cut, because you can, example, drag out the footage on top, or you can move it around. If you want, you can also choose to have both pieces of footage on the same track. You can move this down, and there you have the cut in the footage. So the shortcut for cutting in Premiere is C. Then you get this little cutting symbol. You can cut your footage like this. When you want to go back to your select tool, you press V. You can then click on the footage and move it. And now you have made another cut, like this. Next cut that we're going to have a look at is jump cuts. Jump cut can be used to show the passing of time. Jump cuts is basically when you cut several times in a scene. So it can be in the same piece of footage or different footage from the same scene. And it shows that something is happening, that we're passing time. Let's have a look at the example. In this specific example, it's just one clip where we actually deleted small sections of the clip to make it look like passing time. If we want, we can drag out the entire clip. And here you see how it runs smoothly. What I did to create this effect is that I press C, my cut tool, and I cut out small sections of the clip. I then press V again, my selection tool. I select these little sections that I don't want anymore, press delete, and then I can move these remaining clips together. We now have a jump cut. Let's move on to the next way to cut. So now we're going to talk about J-cuts and L-cuts.
So J-cuts and L-cuts are often used in dialogue in films. That way you can capture the other person's reaction whilst you can still follow the story of the other character.
Makes sense. So what you can see here is that I'm having a conversation with Natalie, but we can actually hear her voice before we see her in frame. That is called a J-cut. Basically, the audio leads you into the next shot. This is easier for the viewer to understand what is happening. So with a J-cut, you basically guide the viewer into the next shot. And the reason why it's called a J-cut is because it kind of looks like a J. You see that the audio is coming before the footage. So the next thing that we're going to look at is an L-cut. It's basically the same as a J-cut, but the other way around. Let's have a look. Here you can hear that the audio from the waterfall takes us into the city and then dissolves into the city rumble. Let's have a look at it. As we can see here, we have the waterfall shot. We have the audio that comes with the waterfall. And the audio is still playing when we see the city. And same as before, you can add these cuts by putting the footage exactly where you want the cut. You can put the audio on different tracks if you want them to play a little bit at the same time. For example, like this. I now made it so that the audio from the city actually starts when you see the city, but the waterfall audio is still going, like this. When you're happy with where your cut is, you can put both pieces of footage on the same track. You can then see that the waterfall footage and the waterfall audio kind of looks like an L. This is a way to remember that this is an L cut. So the next thing that we're going to look at is cutting on action. Let's have a look at the example. Cutting on action is a really simple and useful way to cut. So you cut when someone is doing something. For example, you have a drink, or you're running, or you're talking with your hands. That way you can hide the cuts a little bit more in your video. So in this example, we have cut when someone is running. We go from a low angle shot to a mid shot. And because we cut on the movement, the cut is quite seamless. So when you cut on action, you basically create smoother shots that feels just more natural to the audience. So let's have a look at how to create this. In our source monitor, we see the footage of the people running. Let's say I select this piece. I press I for in, and O for out. I pull this clip into the timeline. And I basically want to find another clip when this woman is stepping. I want to match this movement. So let's look at another clip. And we put this up in the source monitor here. And I'm going to pick this moment here. I press I for in point, and then O for out point. I drag this clip into the timeline, place it after the first clip, and let's watch it back. There you go. That's how you cut on action. The next thing we're going to have a look at is cross-cutting, also known as parallel editing. Cross-cutting and parallel editing is basically when you have two different things happening at the same time and you cut in between them. Let's have a look at how to do this. Let's start with this clip with two people exercising. So I go into my project tab. I find my clip with man and woman using Russian kettlebell. I drag it into my timeline. And then I want to match this with some people kicking football. What you can do is that you can drag the second clip and put it on the track above the first clip. You can then use your C for cut, and you basically cut out and delete the sections that you don't want. If we now play it back, we can see our crosscuts. Number 7 on the list is cutaway shots, also known as B-roll inserts. As you can see, these are 3 very different clips, but together, even if they're in different locations, they tell a story. Let's have a look at how we can create some more cutaway cuts in this sequence. So we go from the nighttime to the club to a close-up of someone dancing. If you then want to go back to the club, you can press Option, hold, and then drag your footage, and you now created a copy of that footage. So now when we have the club footage again, we can add it on top. Choose the section that we want, and we cut back to another cutaway again. Cutaway shots and B-roll inserts are also really common when you shoot an interview or a video like this. We have camera number 1 filming my face, and we have camera number 2 filming my hands. And then we also have our screen recording. So these 2 clips are cutaways for our main camera. Next thing we're going to have a look at is montage. Montage is very similar to jump cuts, but basically over an extended period of time or in different locations. Let's have a look at the example. So similar to jump cuts, you show the passing of time. The viewer gets the feeling that an entire day has gone by, but we can show it in only 10 seconds. So how to make this is pretty simple. Let's go into our projects tab. I'll go to my montage folder, and I can select a few clips. I double click on a clip. I select my favorite parts. Let's do here when the hair is blowing in the wind. I press I for in, O for out, and I drag this into timeline. I choose another clip. Select my favorite moments, and I drag it into timeline. And now I have extended my montage. Last but not least, we're going to have a look at match cuts. Match cut is a really fun way of editing because you can basically match anything that you want. You can match cut between different objects, different locations, or even different sounds. Let's have a look at what we got. So the first example is pretty simple. I just match cut between two different feet, but they're two different people and in two different locations. In this example, you can really see how you seamlessly edit from one clip to another. Even if it's two different people in two different locations, you flow from one shot to the next. And it's really nice that you can cut on movement as well. You see when the people are running. You don't need to match cut in between the same things, let's say 2 feet. You can match cut in between something completely different, but then something that just looks a bit similar, like this. So in this example, we match cut between a woman blowing a bubblegum bubble and then to a firework. The fun thing about match cuts is that you can get really creative. When you create a match cut, it's really important to pick the exact piece of footage that you want. So looking at this example where the woman is blowing a bubble, let's have a look at the footage in the source monitor. A shortcut for this is to highlight the footage, press F. F stands for frame. So if you have a footage in your timeline and you want to find it in your projects tab, you press F for frame, and then you get the entire clip in your source monitor. Here you see the section that I've already picked. And I picked this section because at the end of the clip, it's just before the bubble looks like it's about to pop. If we then look at the firework shot, I click it, press F for frame. I selected a section just when the fireworks explode. So this gives the impression that the bubble is about to pop, and when it does, the fireworks explode. All right, that was all the 9 ways of cutting, but I have one little bonus for you. It's not really a cut, but it's a very useful transition. Let's have a look. So we'll go back to our first sequence, the standard cut. I will pull down the footage so that they're all on the same track. You find cross dissolve and you click and drag it into the timeline. Make sure to put it in between 2 clips, like this. With the effect, you can then click on the effect and you can make it longer or shorter. Let's see how it looks. There we have it, a cross dissolve in our footage. Another way to add a cross dissolve is by using a shortcut. You put your mouse in between 2 clips where you want to transition. You click and make sure that you highlight the clip. You press Command for Mac or Control for Windows, and then D. And there you have it, another cross dissolve. Let's play the clips. And here you see how one clip seamlessly dissolves into the next. So try out all of these cuts and get creative. Happy editing.